Hello and welcome to another Daily Muppet. A little later in the day this time. Wanted to talk about the game. Got busy with work, but getting to it now. So yeah, first it's nice to have some football back to watch and to watch Ten Hag's first game as manager of the new look Manchester United, which is really at the moment an old look Manchester United with really no changes to the starting 11 from what we've seen a few times last year and the year before. The difference is this was basically, if you look at the starting lineup, this was basically Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's 11 with Sancho added in, and in this case Varane instead of Maguire, and then you still have kind of Dalot there, but otherwise it was about the same, and it wasn't bad. And I think I was talking about this on the video yesterday, that if you just take that team, you add Sancho, you add Varane, you add some of the improvements that Ten Hag should bring, could be something interesting to look at. What I want to talk about here, the high pressing was very good. This was something I really liked in defense, the pressing high, cornering teams. Something at times looked all right under Ralph, but obviously did not keep up and was not well organized. The midfielder in build-up dropping back in a bit, Fred coming in deep at times, often getting him into the back line, was important to that. So, you'd obviously see a spot for Frankie de Jong there because there's some other things, but, the fullbacks I thought were really, really important, especially Luke Shaw. He was once again very integral to progressions and the build-up, integral to the opening goal, two of the goals maybe. He was definitely inverting a lot, playing more narrow, tucked in fullbacks. This was something interesting to see. Diogo Dalot too, and not so much Wan-Bissaka in the second half because it was a bit of a different show in the second half, but very interesting. The concerns, I would say, you would see defensively still very open on the break, especially when they press up high. No real cleanup man, no real defensive midfielder. I'm not sure what the solution is. I know people are going to disagree with me on this. Personally, the problem I see with Diogo Dalot is he was often as a part of that back three in defending on the break and sitting a bit deeper as the front went forward and Shaw was higher. He's not a good defender to me. And that's just, there's positive that he brings and build up in some of the attack and transitions. He's just not a good defender to me. He was, in my opinion, when I watched the game, everything was coming down his side and he was consistently getting torn to pieces. Now, some of that is McTominay not being in position as well, not getting back. Fred being the one who should and does get up higher. You would want him to be a little bit further back covering, and if you have Frankie de Jong, he'd probably want to sit a little deeper, build things up a bit, and then be there for coverage. But at the same time, Jurriën Timber, with how Ten Hag played, would go forward, but he'd also clean up a lot as a very athletic, good defensive player. I think he's done that at different points in time. You see how Kyle Walker for Pep kind of gets back there and cleans up. I'd like to see that from Wan-Bissaka. I'd like to see him doing that role because he can. If you're going to have one fullback go up, I'd like to see him sit back there with that back line and play cleanup man. I get that Martinez, that might be his role, is stepping out from the back line, stepping forward and cleaning up as well and helping to break up some play and counter. Again, that Frankie de Jong might sit a bit deeper. But it's one option. It does need to be solved because in a Premier League game, there were times that easily that would have been 1, 2 goals, 3 goals scored against United, and we've seen that for the last few years. There's just nobody to clean up, and they're not going to get a defensive midfielder, and you don't want to throw Fred up deeper and deeper and trying to play that role. McTominay can't do it. You want Fred doing what he was doing today, which was very positive to me. Getting involved in the attack, getting involved in the press and winning the ball high. He did that a lot, and that's one of his best strengths. You want to see that from your midfield. It's not going to be Eriksen deep playing there, breaking up play. It's not going to be, it'll be some Frankie de Jong. So, we'll have to see. Ten Hag, I think that's the biggest problem that Ten Hag will have to solve this year is if you're going to be that progressive, that expansive in attack, who's going to be cleaning up behind you? when you're pressing, because that was really the only negative and the only weakness that I could see. The positives were the attack was incredibly dangerous. The pressing with the high energy up front, the energy is high, the pressing is high. Martial pressed properly, Rashford pressed with him properly, Sancho pressed with him properly, they tracked back well. I love the front three if Martial is happy and willing to put the work, and I thought his positioning, work rate, and where he was playing today was very good. It helps that it was a bit of an open and expansive game. In the bigger games, it's the smaller games when you need to put a lot of work in that I want to see more of. But there was a difference, too, between Ollie. Instead of attacking with 2 or 3, Fred would get involved and get his contributions up there. And obviously he had the goal as well, the fantastic chip shot over Alisson from 25 yards out. Bruno was incredibly creative, doing his best role of quickly getting on the ball and spraying it around left and right and causing havoc. The biggest thing that I noticed in the goals that were scored, the first 3, were attacking with more players. And that's something we've wanted for a long time. It wasn't just the front 3 getting in there, and they were getting in there. Fred would get in there too, Bruno would get in there too, and you'd have 5 or 6 moving up into the box. And that also helps spring the press if you do lose the ball. And I think that is the biggest benefit that Ten Hag can bring, is some structure and real attacking in the final third, putting men forward. I love to see that. I feel like that's where United have been so conservative and so defensive, as a holdover from Jose and how Ollie played as well, not putting men forward. And there was a stat, I can't remember when, there was a stat a while back, and it showed how many men are within a certain distance when shots are going off and things like that. And United were near the bottom, where Liverpool, City, they're up there. There's always 5, 6 guys up in that, in the penalty box or within 10 yards or something like that. And United were near the bottom. They attack with only 2 or 3, and so they struggle, and it passes around, and you're not really crashing the box. But you saw that the goal, the first one, even though it came off a rebound, looked very similar to the goal from the video that I think Ducker posted, where they were practicing that, and then Sancho was across on the right, put that cross to the back post in. That's something that Ten Hag loves, that cross from the side towards the back post. In this case, it resulted in an error from the defense that resulted in Sancho putting a nice finish into the corner. And so it's going to be a bread and butter of Ten Hag, but that only comes about by having a lot of people forward and in the box, and I love to see that. Like I said as well, Fred giving license to press high and play to his strengths, as he did under Ralph, is a great positive, adds another dimension. You can see Ten Hag still wants to play very vertically. He's not really like Pep, where it's going to be passing around forever. The instructions were still obviously very clear for Bruno to go, but in an intelligent way that I really liked. I enjoyed it. It's preseason, obviously, but there's not been a lot of positives with United to look forward to over the last 12 months. So it's I'm going to enjoy every aspect of it. I'm going to be happy about every aspect of it. I'm going to be over optimistic about all of it, and I suggest the same, because why not? Why not have fun with it, right? That being said, I think, as we've known, as I said, we need that midfield upgrade badly. Frankie de Jong and for McTominay makes a huge difference there. Martinez in potentially at the back for flexibility and cleanup will help. Eriksen for more options. I'll even say Maguire, because one of the problems with Varane and Lindelof is it's very passive. So on the break, they're constantly moving backwards, whereas Maguire tends to come forward and break up play a little. And yes, sometimes he makes mistakes there, but you do prevent them from just getting to run at you. And if he can do a good job there, or Martinez can, that helps that point of who's breaking up play and cleaning up. I'd like to keep an energetic through like this. I never thought I'd be saying this again, but Martial's movement and energy, positioning, pressing, everything he was doing was very, very, very important. Very important to it happening. Outside of the goal, I already thought he was having a great game and was doing the right movements and the right actions that you'd want from a striker. My fear with Ronaldo that I've said all year why I wanted them to buy a striker is if he cannot move like that. If he cannot put that work in off ball, if he cannot do that pressing, if he cannot make those runs and things that he does, and not just be great on ball and finishing, a lot of those positives go away. They're much harder to deal with. It was a very cohesive pressing at times, and that is so important. If you take one cog out of that, it can throw the whole balance off. And I think it's a requirement for the style. There were nice goals. It was nice play. Sancho was awesome. I think Sancho was the best player for me. I think he was. He was so good at taking men on, beating them. He was able to actually play in his role off the right with a bit of freedom to move around, get into space, create, do things. He's been very good at taking people on the dribble, especially when he gets a mismatch and then he goes after it. But he was sharp. And that's smart. He looked like the player we wanted, and that we purchased and was worth that much money. Very dangerous. But, that's all we can really read from a preseason game is the energy that's there. What are they trying to do? And where are things going? And hey, we got a trophy. We hadn't seen one even in preseason under Ollie, so it's been a long time, and it's fun to have football back. Other takeaways, especially from the second half. I have concerns about Ahmad being physically ready. There was many times in that second half he was just looked like he'd run into a brick wall, and it was like a kid among men. He's been bullied a bit. That's been the concern all along. He did really well on the goal, and he's got the skill, he's got the ability, he's got vision, he's got all of that. But physically, he's so far below the level of a lot of these players. And yeah, it's a tough test playing off most of the game that he was in against the best Liverpool side. But he was set up front in a role that's not too familiar with him against probably the best center back in the world, and he still managed to get an assist. So I'm complaining too much given the situation. I was not impressed with Donny van de Beek at all. Still, he does not look up to scratch. He's invisible. He does not move quickly. He's slow. He's just slow, and I don't know. It's hard to get around the fact that he's just not quick. And he looks slow against a Premier League standard. He looks slow compared to the other Manchester United players. And that was, I think, in Ducker's thing, was that he wasn't fit. He doesn't move quickly, and this is a complaint that you've had from Ollie, from Ralph, and from even all these managers, is that he's not physically up to scratch, and not from a size standpoint, but just you can see it. It doesn't look like he's at the same speed and movement as the other players. But we'll give him time. I just wasn't impressed. And it looks like he can really only take one-touch ball. Doesn't really influence the game outside of that. It's going to be hard for him to find a role because I just don't think the league is simple enough to be so specialized as just like whatever that role he has, arriving late in the box and making those one-touch plays. I just don't know if there's a position that fits that at Manchester United for the level of play of the Premier League. I was extremely impressed with Zidane Iqbal. He was incredible. I mean, he was really, really good. And he was up against Thiago and Fabinho and these guys. He was class on the ball. His vision was good. His passing was good. He had great control. He was composed, very mature. Really impressed. Really, really impressed. And Charlie Savage didn't look out of place either. He was very impressive. They fit. They didn't do badly. They just kept things calm and did what they need to do. Moved the ball, defended well. What can I say? Yeah, they did great. I mean, obviously the team at that point was outmatched, but they did a really good job. They held their own there, and I would not say that they were a weakness in comparison to the Liverpool team, and that's something to say for the moment. That's really impressive. It's very bright, the future with these kids coming from the academy. The goal that the B side scored was awesome too. I mean, it all started with Eric Bailly going on one of his mad runs. That was hilarious, impressive, fantastic, all in one. And then it was really, really sharply well done by Ahmad and Pellistri. Pellistri getting the ball, turning, sending Ahmad through with an intelligent run, perfectly timing their runs, the passes, the finishes to get the goal. It was awesome. It was really nice to see that they were against Virgil van Dijk there, and they managed to make it work and get a goal. And Pellistri has impressed me again in preseason. Not that he's a finished product, but he does a lot. He's got some quality. He's got some composure. He's got a quick turn of pace. I like him. I really do. Other than that, Darwin Nunez is crap. Terrible player. Glad we never wanted him. Always knew he was terrible. Not somebody we wanted for United at all. And but yeah, he actually was not very good and missed a sitter. And I don't want to say anymore because I just don't want to. I'm happy to accept if I'm wrong, and be the guy who was wrong on this, especially given the circumstances. I'd be happy to be totally wrong. I don't want to say anything else and have it come back to bite me for the second time now, okay? So other than that, let's move on to a quick run-through of what's up to date with transfers, because there are a few updates to discuss. There's a report from Duncan Castles that kind of walked back all the things about Ronaldo wanting to leave, something about him being impressed with Richard Arnold and all of that, and I'm not sure that anyone's buying it. To me, it's a bit obvious, a bit transparent. The fact is he was offered to multiple clubs and had no takers. Offered to Chelsea, offered to Bayern, offered to PSG, offered to Barcelona, and nobody wanted to sign him. Nobody wanted to afford his wages, and not that many clubs need him. And that's the facts. He was offered around, and nobody wanted to sign him, and now he's got to walk it back to try to repair the relationship publicly and with the club. And personally, I don't buy it. It's just that nobody wanted him, and I'm not. This is Ronaldo. It is what he does. It's who he is. That's fine. He's likely to stay now, but that's the reason why he's likely to stay, is there are not many takers or any takers out there at the moment. And so he may stay, but he's going to have to accept whatever role he's going to have to accept. I don't think Ten Hag is going to play too nice and too many favors. He's going to have to alternate well and deal with it. And may not be the captain as well, as he said, with Harry Maguire being captain. So he's going to have to accept that and be professional, and I'm sure that he will. On that, I don't really have any doubts. With regards to Frankie de Jong, the talks continue. TalkSport reported today that Barcelona want United to contribute to the deferred wages for Frankie de Jong to get a deal done. That's not new news. I said this on Saturday, that was, we've been talking about that being the holdup for a while, but on Saturday I said that Barcelona wanted them to contribute to pay part of it to help get it done. Personally, I think it's quite possibly why they flew down with Richard Arnold, to work out a potential financial package that could suit all parties, or adjust the terms and discuss with de Jong potentially. Now, one of the things is, you had some stories then yesterday from some absolute tier ones, Oriol Dominic, who was very good for Barcelona, especially Dutch players. He's the one who broke de Jong to Barcelona originally. He said they agreed the total fee, package, everything, all done. And so if that's the case, it's interesting. We'll see kind of what happens next. Here's where it gets very confusing for everybody, and I understand it. I want to clarify something that I tweeted about this. You see a lot of things out there about nothing's changed. De Jong wants to stay at Barcelona. He hasn't approved a move. His intention is to stay at Barcelona. His intention is to stay at Barcelona. His intention is to stay at Barcelona. For some sources, while other sources say he's definitely open, definitely willing, and all of that. And there's a simple reason for this that I know. His agency and his representatives and the people around him have continued to tell the media nothing, and tell him only he wants to stay at Barcelona. He wants to stay at Barcelona. He wants to stay at Barcelona. That's all that they've said. That's facts. That is what they have said, okay? To be clear, that is what his representatives have said. That is what his agents have said. That is what they continue to say. They've given nothing away. They have and will maintain that stance that he loves Barcelona, that he intends to stay. However, you'll see that the club sources say different. So you'll get the reporters Romano, others who are saying, he said he wants to stay, he said he wants to stay, he said he wants to stay. Where club sources say different. They'll say, there's something somebody posted in the Discord, but the link from all of the people who've said he wants to, that he's open to the move and willing to join United now. Whitwell, Hurst, Ducker, like every tier one from United. And it's because in the direct, and this is where I would go with the club sources. Personally, I know because in the beginning, 2 months ago now, May 11, I said his representative said he's not open to the move. He's rejected. He doesn't want to go. I know they've been saying that all along. And I don't, if it weren't for these club sources, I would be very nervous about this deal because they've been saying that from the start. So anyone who talks to them, that is what they're going to say. Fact, that is what they're going to say until the day this deal happens. But I'd go with club sources on this. These are tier ones. They've had many, many, many direct talks with him and his agency last week. Luckhurst said Ali Dursun was in there and spoke with the representatives and the deal makers about the deal. And then they flew out to Barcelona. They're not doing that if they haven't been told he's open to joining. Come on, just logically think about that, and that's why the tier ones have said what they've said. If he wasn't open to joining, If he hadn't given positive signals, they wouldn't be doing any of that at this point in time. And he is very upset with Barcelona. That is a fact. And United really do want this resolved this week now to get this done. And that's what's been reported as well. So that's why it's confusing. I understand it's hard. It is a little scary because it's true. As reps and agents, it's not like someone's making it up. They do say he wants to stay, he wants to stay, he wants to stay. But I'm more not worried about that. What are the club being told by the agent and representative and player in talks? Ten Hag spoken with him. What are they saying? That's what's more important. If they've misread the situation, that would be disastrous. But they are saying that he's open, he's willing, and that he's, when they work this deal out with the deferred wages, that he will join, and that's what they're there to accomplish now. On Martinez, United are still trying, and the player's push is going to be key now too. It looks like he's pressing more, that Ajax are more open to it, and there's reports that United are going to come in with a slightly improved bid. I think it'll just end up being a flat 50 million euros guaranteed. I think he's been asking them to, and they're open to it, and they're going to have to move ahead. And now they've kind of lined up a replacement. It looks like that they're discussing as well, and so maybe that's kind of opened the door a little more. I still think this one gets done. It looks like it will. It's still very active, so I still expect it'll get done. Just nothing's been on time with United right now. And speaking of that, Christian Eriksen's situation seems to be delayed a little too, and I honestly don't know why, except anything outside of logistics. From what I've heard on the other side, on the side of the medical and things, that it has not been done yet. I can't say 100%, but from what I understand, it hasn't been done yet. They haven't asked for records to get it all done, and nobody knows yet why, but nobody's been indicated there's anything wrong. So I don't know. It's just something I don't know. I'm not sure if anybody does. Maybe it's just organizing things. I don't know if they're in a rush to get him on a plane or anything like that. So I guess we'll find out soon. I'm sure somebody will have an update. Surely in the next couple of days they will have an update on this to say why. But I don't know. I wish I could say more about that. But at the moment, I still expect Jong, Martinez, Eriksen come in, and that might be the end of business. Based on the game today and based on what I was talking about yesterday, wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't particularly be disappointed either. So that's where things are at the moment. Hope you enjoyed this. I'll keep you updated quickly. Hopefully have a video in the morning with some updates. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. I'll see you in the next one.